Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Hello, everybody. Today on the flow, we have Shadow Fox, and we're going to talk about getting out of the grips of grief. And with that said, here is Shadow Fox. Hello, Shadow Fox. How are you today?
Hey, how are you? Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are, going to be tuning into this. This is fantastic. So, welcome and thank you for being here.
Yes, grief. Oh, my goodness. I tell you, I've had my share in 2022. And just to let everyone know, grief isn't just the loss of somebody. Grief could be, financial distress. It could be the loss, the ending of a relationship. It
Loss of
doesn't
a
have.
limb,
Yes, exactly. There are many, many avenues to.
relationship.
Yep, friendships.
Got
So
it.
especially in this political atmosphere, there's been a lot of separation of families over politics.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and that can cause a lot of grief.
yeah. And so when we're taking a look at grief in and of itself, as we go forward, I'll probably be focusing a little more within the realm of because people may have lost somebody 40 years ago, and yet uh, the grief that they are suffering with is still very, very still hot, still reverent in their lives. And I just like to make a brief mention here. I know we're just starting with this, but it doesn't matter from what walk of life you are in search of a higher consciousness or prayer or meditation or whatever component, wherever you're from, grief will integrate within our lives. And these are mechanisms that can help assist that. Like there's a very closely intertwined and interrelated mechanisms, like people who are practicing or learning about Stoicism, for instance. There's a great cross reference within all of this. I speak from the position of spirituality, which is not that of a religious structure. I work within the mechanisms of energy and how to change it. And we are energy, right? So our thoughts and our emotions are what create our reality. And so, therefore, if our emotions are constantly being triggered or held down with those, the grips of, the oppression, that pressure we feel with grief. So there's a couple mechanisms we can help to release it, and that's what we're going to share today. All right. So, Paul, if you would, can you, by the way, this is just information. Um, this is just information we're sharing right now. Actually, somebody had tweeted it out, and I thought it was fascinating. It was, very generic for the most part, um, but it's very easily to understand. And I'm going to ask Paul to kind of go through that a little bit because this can also be referenced to a previous show that we had done with what was it, pain management? I think it was, Paul, wasn't it? Like episode
Yes.
14, I think. I
Yeah.
Yeah, correct me if I'm incorrect, but I do believe it was the
Right.
manage E14. Um, these are also those, like when we were talking about creating and releasing, those uh, the pain chemicals for ourselves to calm down pain. These are also some of the same chemicals that can be utilized in different proportions. But go for it. Please read that. And if you have not seen the episode with pain management, please go check it out because it's all going to apply together. It has to do with healing. So go for it, Paul.
All right. I'm putting up a banner real quick. This is where we get the information from www.mindmypeelings.com. Okay, so feel free to go there and check that out. I'm going to
Mhm.
read the information on here. Get your daily happiness chemicals, and there's four main chemicals that we're going to be talking about with this article. Dopamine. Dopamine is very important. It enables motivation, learning, and pleasure. It gives you determination to accomplish goals, desires, and needs. Okay, so dopamine is very, very important. Um, if you're deficient, you'll have procrastination, low self esteem, lack of motivation, the inability to focus, feel anxious or hopelessness. You might even have mood swings. And how you increase those happy levels is meditation, a daily to do list, long term goals, food rich in L-tyrosine, exercise regularly, create something, writing, music, art. These are great things to get your dopamine levels up. Then we have oxytocin. And if I may not be pronouncing these right, but I'm
It's
going
oxytocin, I think.
oxytocin. It didn't sound right when I said tossin. Feeling of trust motivates you to build and sustain relationships, known as cuddle or love hormone. It plays a role in bonding. And of course, if you're feeling lonely, stressed, lack of motivation, low energy, and fatigue, disconnected relationships, feeling anxious, insomnia, that's how a deficiency in this will affect you. How to increase it? Physical touch, socializing, massage, acupuncture, listening to music, exercise, cold shower, and again, meditate. Um, Serotonin. Um, it gives you a feeling of significance or importance amongst your peers. Serotonin is a good thing. It's a calm form of accepting yourself with the people around you. If you're deficient in it, again, low self-esteem. That's big with any of these chemicals. Overly sensitive, anxiety, panic attacks. Wow. I get a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, so I'm probably not producing enough serotonin.
Mhm.
Feeling hopeless, social phobia, obsession, compulsion, insomnia. Again, good things to help increase the happiness levels of this hormone is exercise, cold showers, sunlight, and massage. Now, I go on daily walks. I walk about 4 or 5 miles a day. So, obviously, this is bringing my happy serotonin levels up. Endorphins. Um, Releases a brief euphoria to mask physical pain. Response to pain and stress that alleviates anxiety and depression. Now, if you're deficient in endorphins, again, anxiety, depression, mood swings, aches and pains, insomnia, impulsive behavior. To increase your endorphins, laughter, crying, creating music, art, eat dark chocolate. So,
Mm.
you want to have you just say, I need to increase my endorphins. Exercise, stretching, eat spicy foods, massage, and again, meditation.
Yeah.
So these are a lot of the things. And again, mindmypeelings.com. If you want more information on mental health and things like that, highly recommend it.
Yeah. And the neat kind of thing that was mentioned in there was like a cold shower. And what does the coldness do? It stimulates that vagus nerve, by the way. Okay. And within that, these are parts of where we can access these chemicals that we produce. Um, so again, like you can go back and listen to the other segment too, because I think it was there was a mention of it when we went over some of the breathing techniques that were off we you pulled up on YouTube or whatever. So I'm just oop.
Well,
Are you there?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm still here.
All right.
Ready for
So
the next one.
all right. So what I'd like to do is very briefly, because we're looking at the releasing some of this energy, right? Because sometimes grief, it can just really, you can be going on with your day, doing, whatever, and all of a sudden you're doing dishes, and then wham, that that grief or that sadness or that feeling or sense of loss, we get triggered, right? And I mean, it was like when I weren't thinking about our loved one, and all of a sudden, wham bam, there you are. Very quickly, I'd like to give a little bit of an explanation and a little thing that we can do to help kind of release that pressure a little bit. Um, anyone, and again, this is why grief comes in many different forms. So for this, we're going to be looking at the aspect of when somebody has transitioned, somebody has passed. Um, People call it a loss. Which it is. I have a little difficulty with the terminology myself because my daughter was not. I didn't lose my daughter. She wasn't a set of keys. I kind of know where she went, you know. So, so it's the pain that we feel because the physical body isn't with us. And here's my point: because when somebody passes and they kind of come back and they're checking in on us, right? What happens is that emotional, because we have an electromagnetic field. What happens is we, as their presence comes into our presence, we get triggered by it. And it sends into the cells of our body that remembrance of the loss. Like, oh my gosh, they're not here. Can't put my arms around them, right? So we get that feeling. It feels like pressure or just like dread or sadness that just descends on us like in an instant. And the moment you say to yourself out loud or to your loved one, like, oh my gosh, thank you for coming by, I feel you, I see you, or I hear you, whether you do or you don't, it's like I recognize you're here, your presence. And the moment you recognize that pressure kind of will let off from you a little bit. So that's one little mechanism. Just say hi. Like, hi grandma. um and that can help release a little bit of that pressure. Um so at this time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring in now, if you can very briefly pull up those the websites. Now, there's a couple of them, and I think you're just going to post the websites because these are the stages of grief. Hey, this information is out there. It's not what is that? Okay, it's not like this is rocket science. This is not my work. I mean, doctors have come up with this stuff, but there's two different websites and they kind of describe it a little bit different. And there's a reason why I'd like to reference this. So can you just do the websites or no, Paul?
No, I brought this up because Recover from Grief is the website. So if you look up in the
Okay.
upper left corner, you'll see where it says Recover from Grief.
Okay.
If you type in recoverfromgrief.com, it'll take you to that website.
Okay. And then there's the other one. Well, with this site, give it a second, because with this site, um, the 7 stages of grief, and I'm going to go from 1 to 7, is what they list as shock or disbelief. Then we have denial. The third one is anger. The fourth one is bargaining. The fifth one is guilt. Six is depression. And the seventh is acceptance and hope. Okay. Now, if you go to the next one, they kind of describe it a little bit different. And again, because people are going to recognize this a little bit differently. So, for instance, number 2 may not be denial for them. Um, so, this next one is recoverfromgrief.com. You got it?
No, this one's activepause.com. The first one
Okay.
is recoverfromgrief.com. This one is activepause.com.
Okay. Okay. And so, with this, we have shock and denial. The second one is like pain and guilt. Then we have anger and bargaining. The fourth one they list as depression, reflection, and loneliness. 5, the upward turn. 6, reconstruction and working through. And then seventh is acceptance and hope. And there really is a reason why I'm bringing this to the forefront, is because if you think about it, some of them will go with five of them. But if you look at them as listed as seven, guess what? Goes through our seven chakras. And when someone passes, or when we have an upset, such as we lost our home or a relationship or a job or a limb, okay, we've suffered some form of loss. So we have that sorrow. Um, so we can literally take a look at this through a perception or a viewpoint of energy. And our chakras carry our belief systems. Plain and simple. That's where they're stored. They're not stored up in our head. This is what I believe or whatever. This is why when, for instance, somebody says something that goes against something that you absolutely positively believe in, right? And then you get, those hot buttons just get triggered and you get all fired up, and boy, oh boy, you're just going to be telling people what you think, right? It's because these belief systems reside within our chakras. And there's a lot of information out there. If you guys are not familiar with chakras, the root chakra goes up the colors of the rainbow. You have the root chakra all the way, heart chakra, throat chakra, all the way up. Look it up, okay? Um, those who are very aware of the chakras or working with the energy recognize that when we um, uh, go through this grief process. Now, hey, there's no magic pill, right? There really isn't. However, this is this can help us gain a sense of composure. It's like something we can do actively for ourselves, that we can feel empowered, that we are actually have a say in this process, instead of like us just being on this boat like the Titanic and we're on for a ride and it's just going to go wherever it's going to go, right? So we can release those that grip of grief, right? Just like releasing the anchor from the Titanic. Um, we don't have to go down with the ship. Okay, so I'm giving some of these little references for people because, last month Paul and I had discussed it, if we should wait until the new year to come forward with it, because when people are in these grips, then you're not going to hear us. You're not going to hear a single word we say, because you're focused and upset within in the process. Uh, Many people will get re-triggered during the holidays, so we kind of thought we'd wait a little bit and bring this forward in the new year, so that you guys have those tools and you can work through it at your own pace, whether it was 40 years ago, 2 years ago, or yesterday. Um, so, what does this mean? How can we literally work with this information? Okay, so Paul, got a question for you.
Shoot.
All right, let's just think about for a second. You're walking down the street barefoot and you get a piece of glass or something in your foot. What is your first inclination to do? Is it to stop, to pull that piece of glass out? Or are you just going to keep it there and say, I'll get to it later and we'll push it off on the back table? What do you think?
Well, actually, that's not a good question for me because I have spinal injuries and I have no feeling in my feet, so I probably wouldn't even notice if there was glass.
Okay, if you had, or
But,
if you remember
but
back when you had feelings in your
before
feet, what
before
would
my
you do?
injury, before my spinal injury and all that, if I stepped on glass, I would probably scream and shout and probably uh, sit down on the ground and try to dig that glass out before I went anywhere.
Right. Gotcha. Now, just for a moment, so let me ask, because if we turn that little scenario, like having a foreign object, for instance, a piece of glass in your foot, would it not be a reminder that you're in pain because it's going to keep poking through your foot, right? Every step you take, or every other step, right? Because if you only get it in the one foot, you got a good foot, and then you step in again, and then you're going to be reminded that, hey, it hurts, plus you're going to leave little droplets of blood all over the place, right? So, with that in mind, what happens is when we're in the throes of grief or the stages of grief, doesn't matter under what stage you are, go look those stages up again, okay? That we have a mechanism to help clear that. We're going to take that piece of glass out of our foot. We're going to take that piece of glass out of our aura because the exact same thing happens now. Here's the point. So if you guys are looking at this, we're at a 20-minute mark here. So you can always come back to this aspect, or if you have to reference it to give some information to somebody else. Um, what happens is our belief systems are stored within our chakras. So, say for instance, a loved one has passed. Okay, we have what? Denial, like, I can't believe that just happened. They were here, standing here yesterday, and they're in an accident, or however this comes into beingness. Okay, there's part of that denial or anger, shock or disbelief, as the one website lists. So, what does that do? It shatters that root chakra, that belief system that we're holding about that person, situation, environment, whatever. Um, so it shatters that energy of our chakras. Now, our chakras are not injured, it's just where the belief systems reside. Okay, very, very different. But what happens, it's like a mirror. Consider, we're going to look at it as a mirror. Instead of a piece of glass, we're going to look at it as a mirror. And what happens is that mirror, it that would be our belief system, okay, represents our belief system in our root chakra, for instance, shatters. What happens when we shatter glass? What happens when we shatter um, a mirror? We have all these little reflective pieces. So if we're looking at it as red, okay, it's the root chakra, here's our belief system, we're going to have all these little red pieces floating around in our energy. So those are those broken fragments of glass, and we're constantly stepping on them. How do we clear that up? Now, again, if someone really is having an issue, with grief, please seek professional counseling or whatever. See if that works for you. But this is a mechanism that we can utilize in our own lives, and we can do it through thought. We can do it through visualization, imagination, or pretending. Um, so, how do we clean up all those little fragments? Even when you go to the next level and you say you're dealing with, denial or anger or even beginning a new beginning, if we have all these shards in our aura, in our energy field, how, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, that's why you feel that pressure too when, say, a loved one comes and visits you because you're being triggered, and all of a sudden now you're getting poked. You're taking a step out, right, with glass still in your foot. I'm just trying to make those little connections for you. Does that make sense, Paul?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Okay. So, how do we get this to clear up, and why would we choose to? You don't have to choose any of it. You can continue going on your merry old way. Um, this is just a technique. It's a tool. It's a thought hack that can help us move to the next stages of grief, perhaps making those transitions a little easier. And again, even if you're looking at a stoic aspect or under a stoic um, study, again, how do we regain that composure of our own dignity, of our own emotional components, right? Now, there are physical things that we can do. We can, like Paul was talking about, taking a walk. Okay. Well, we can also, if you ever look at someone who's a in the modes of depression or are in those structures of grief, how does their past your look, right? They're all slumped over. They're all miserable. When they walk, they may be looking down. Their cadence is much slower. So when you go get your mail in the morning, say you got to walk down a driveway to go get it or to the car to go get it, put your shoulders back, put your head up, and pick up the pace a little bit. That will help. Why? Because it helps trigger all some of those chemicals that Paul was reading about earlier. This is little things that we can do each and every day. Um, so with that, I'm going to go a little further, and I'm going to show you couple of different ways that we can clear that energy. Do we have anything? Are there any comments anywhere? Is anybody? Um,
Um, oh, we got a couple hi y'alls. We got Diana. Hello. Um, we got Cornelia who reminds everybody don't forget to hit the like button. We picked up a new master extra mile. Thanks a lot for this show. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for supporting us. We appreciate it.
Oh, we do. We really do. And seriously, we're gonna start getting into some of the mechanisms, man. Tweet up if you're on Twitter or whatever. Retweet this out. If you're on anywhere, tweet it out. Facebook, whatever. Um, because people can always listen to on the replay too. So here's a couple of little mechanisms that I'd like to share with you as far as energy work. And again, these are just some of the energy tools for clearing up our own aura, our own energy, so that we can shine and project a little more clearly without like colored glasses on, right? Those colored glasses. Um, Now, this technique can be done um, through actual just sitting and thinking about it. Because I know, Paul, you have a difficult time with like meditation, but other people who really function and work very well within meditation, this is something that you can bring into it. And again, now I am going to make a mention. This is the only time you're going to hear me, well, probably the only time you're going to hear me say this. Not only does this work with releasing and clearing those fragments of our fragmented belief systems of when we're dealing with grief, okay? But this can also be a mechanism where we can clear the inside of our aura up so that we can clear those filters of how we get information. All right, so you can. There's a couple of different things that this can really apply to. I mean, how many times are you so dead set on because you learned something a specific way, and then all of a sudden somebody's saying, bringing something forward that may have a little more clarity. It may be a little easier to work with, but because you learned it one way, you're dead set. Nope, not looking at it. Why? Because you got clogged filters. The energy is clogged, so the energy and the information is not being able to come in and resonate. Okay, so this is another mechanism that we can clear some of that for a greater understanding, especially when somebody else is bringing and presenting information. Okay, so that we can learn. Doesn't mean you take everything hook, line, and sinker. That's not what I'm saying. But what it does is it clears some of the energy of where we become blacked. Okay, so with this technique, again, I'm going to go through it very kind of quickly. There are many different things you can use, and I am going to actually show you visually, like because there are some people that may have difficulty imagining or pretending. So if they are like creatively, visually impaired, um, I'm gonna kind of show you. There's a couple of different things that we can utilize. You don't have to utilize any of them. You can just do it through thought, but we can utilize it through clearing our energy chakras, okay, our our inside of the aura to get rid of those fragmented, broken pieces of mirror, right, that reflects back. So we can utilize this. I'm going to show you You can use a feather. You don't have to use these. I'm just doing it so people can see, okay? You can also use a rose. A rose is that of a symbol of the ascended masters. Um, oh my. You can also use a crystal, for instance. Hold it if that helps you. Um, this one is amethyst. I don't know if you can see it or not.
You can
Um,
see
so there's just many different techniques. Another one is your hand, right? Or just your thoughts. So with this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the feather. All right, you can use it, but I'm showing you these. Doesn't mean you have to go out and go get one, but if it helps someone be able to visualize it so they can do it for themselves, this is why I'm doing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is if you just, we can kind of do this like as a brief meditation, I guess, because there's other information I'd like to bring forward that will also help us this. But this is one of the ways that we can clear all that stagnant, stale, hurtful, painful, sorrowful energy inside of our aura. Okay, because our thoughts do create, and the emotions are extremely powerful and they are expressed. And this is a good way of helping to release that, because the grip that grief holds upon us is where our focus is, where we actually put our focus. And sometimes it's very, very difficult in the deepest parts of grief to step forward, and you may not even be able to be there in order to actually use this technique. So when you get a chance to take a breath, perhaps you may try it. So what you do basically is center yourself, sit, take a couple of breaths, center yourself, bring your focus to behind your eyes, middle of your ears. Okay, so we're going to be back by the pineal and pituitary gland, center of your head. And with the consciousness there, what I'd like you to do is take your feather, your rose, whether it is a physical one or whether you're imagining it, and start within the root chakra, and just kind of like, I'm not in the root chakra, but like you can't see it. Just kind of twirl it. This is like a magnet, okay? This is this is what's going to clear out all those fragments, the hurtful fragments of our belief, like I can't believe this person died, or the denial or the anger. Like whatever. Like, I'm so angry that if you didn't die, I'd kill you, right? Okay, so these are those mechanisms, and just you can pretend that it is a magnet and it's drawing those fragments from your aura, okay? And then take this, and then what you're going to do is you're going to either burn it, um, blow it up. You can kind of like insinuate it, I mean, just don't put it out there in the universe so that it infects or stabs someone else. If you're utilizing um, crystals or anything like that afterwards, definitely do a cleanse. All right. So it's the same mechanism, however you're going to do it. So if you're using a intangible, you're imagining it, then put it outside of your aura and release it, and call the universe to take care of it immediately, right? We're not looking at infecting anybody else. And then just go to the neck chakra. There are 7 of them within this structure, within the body, okay? Go through each one and go through the inside bubble, okay? This is what you're going to do. In doing this, it clears, literally clears those fragments. Now, you're gonna feel it immediately. You might. If you're sensitive, you really might. But this is also a good way that you can also clear up those filters of how we learn. Right? We can get bogged down in many cases of information, like, or even information overload. Right? Clear some of them out so you can like be fresh and new. Same difference. If you got to think of it as a vacuum cleaner, there you go. Now, let me ask you, what happens when you break a glass and it's on the floor? You go out, right? You're going to vacuum it up. Hmm. You look down, you go, oh my goodness, there's a few shards there. So then you're going to go over, maybe get a wet paper towel so you get all those shards so you don't get that glass on your foot. Oh my. And then you look the next day and you're like, it's still showing up. This is exactly what happens in our aura. This is not a one time process. It's just the first one may be very gunky. Okay. Again, take that rose out or whatever and take care of it. Like, people will say, "Oh, let it go and rot and compost it." As it's composting out in the etheric, it can definitely um, infect or poke other people. Believe it or not. So just get rid of it. Burn it. However, um, that's what I found is the best way. And again, it is just that clearing of energy, and then afterwards, call in the golden light. You can same way go back. I mean, this has been discussed in a couple of other shows. I think it was the 14th. Um, Call in golden energy in and to surround in the inside and to go to wherever those fragmented pieces were released from either your chakras, your aura. Allow that to fill in those. And it's the same thing if we were cleaning. Remember when we were cleaning energy from a room? We started in one way and then we brought in the golden light or the energy, or we switched it around. Same premise. There's no difference. Um, that golden light could be considered like a band-aid, or it can be considered like an antibiotic cream if you like. It could just be soothing. It's filling the voids for where that damage was. All right, you can consider it nutrients, food, however it works for you. Everybody's different. Okay, so that is the major premise for clearing that part with the energy. And again, if you're visually impaired, here you go. You can do it. I mean, like etherically and visually, like imagination. The throat, and do it from behind too. Don't forget behind, front and back, and all the way around. So this mechanism, don't knock it until you try it. It can definitely help. Again, you got to keep kind of cleaning it, right? A broken, you think you got it, you vacuum up the glass, and you look around and you're going to find some shards. And then you look around even the next day and there could even be more stuff. So just recognize this is a tool. This is yours. You can go with it. Um, so, Paul, at this time, I do have a few things that I'd like to introduce that we can do, because this is just cleansing our energy, right? There's some physical things that we can actually do also. But do you have any questions? Would you like to say anything? Because I know, like, meditation is not one of your big things, but I know that you can take this premise, like when you're working out, for instance, right? You can utilize that during this time when you get into the zone. Another perfect opportunity to be able to do some energy work. So, just give
Well, and for people that what Shadow Fox just explained to you, let's say that's not for you. Let's say you just it's not part of your belief system. And like Shadow Fox indicated, neither one of us are doctors. Okay, research, do your own trials, do your own tribulations, do your own whatever it is that you do. Utilize your own belief systems. Okay, I personally, who have just recently gone through lots of losses over the last, oh God, uh, since 2011, I've gone through a lot of things. Okay. Um, and the last few years, I've gone over the loss of some pets. I just lost my wife last January, coming up on her 1 year death anniversary on the 22nd.
Yep.
Her birthday's in 3 days, and that's her right up here on the back mantle. Um,
These can be triggering.
right.
And, Paul, this could be a perfect
Yes.
opportunity.
The
It doesn't mean you have to believe in it or
right.
you have to poo poo it, but this is energy work. And it happens
Correct.
to be what our mind can bring forward. Okay.
Right.
It's energy is energy. It's
Correct.
like this is why people get into such a mess because they perhaps are not have never been taught of working how to work with energy, how to clear it, how to heal it, how to maintain it, how to elevate it, how to rise above. I mean, I
Right.
don't. I mean, is this like a word sandwich? Yes, but there's so many different ways that can, people may understand differently. Could
Right.
this be utilized in prayer? Absolutely. You
Yes.
know,
Well, and
you
that's
know,
what I'm getting into, and all that is the holidays here have been because
yes,
she got her death sentence in October, and she only made it 3 months.
yeah,
And for me, the holidays then this year was very, very hard.
right.
I walk 3 to 6 miles a day. I take my pup out every day. I the air, the sunshine, it does wonders for me. It does wonders. I'm working out every day. I'm doing either some push-ups or some pull-ups or something and all that to again stimulate me. And then I'm also writing. Well, I'm
Good. Yes.
producing these shows, which again, I've been. This is week 16. I mean, 4 months now. We've been going strong on this,
Mhm.
and this helps me. And then, of course, my writing and all that. I write poetry. I have a poem that I wrote, ode to my wife. Afterwards, called 3 Minutes, that I've read a multitude of times.
Yep.
Diana Bishop, who's in the comments. When I first wrote the poem, I couldn't even read it. It
Yeah.
was so hard, and
And
Diana read it
again,
for me and all that.
Paul, these are, and I
Yes.
don't mean to cut you off, but these are the things that end up triggering us and bringing us forward. And again, um, grief, like I said, can be those it grips us and
Yes.
sometimes it's very very difficult to release, and I'm just going to change it because I'm not going to that the vibrational energy of it is really kind of low, so I'm calling quits on that, because it can trigger many other people, and what I'm trying to trigger in people with this
Hmm.
is a tool to get us out of that. And
Right.
so this is why it's like I mean I'm calling on it
Right.
because
These
this
are
is
all tools for me that help me get out
yeah,
of it.
exactly. And there are many, many mechanisms. But here's the thing, when you are in the throes of grief or in deep despair of even depression, I'm sorry, I'm not getting out of bed. I could care less. I could give two shits if, I get a cup of coffee today. I mean, it can get so bad. And if so, if you're in that space, please go seek some help. This is where if you have a desire, if you're really tired of banging your head against the wall and feeling the pain, stepping on that piece of glass in your foot all the time and being reminded, you know what? It kind of feels real good when you stop. When you stop for banging your head against that wall, it feels real good. When you literally pull that piece of glass out of your foot, it feels real freaking good. It's the same mechanism of clearing those pieces of glass out, those pieces of mirror that keep reflecting back that pain or discomfort in our own aura. So pluck them out, pull them out, pick the glass up off the floor, so to speak. And the floor is within our physical body. I mean, if you look at all the colors and as you're working with it and say you've never cleaned out um, the energy of like just the discordant energy of complete disbelief, you've got those red shards still out there, and then all of a sudden you're looking at working on the green, the heart, looking on working on that. uh well, let's help the process along a little bit. So I would like to make a mention of a few things that we can definitely do. Um, uh, for the energy work, and then I'm going to give a couple ideas that we can literally do it physically. All right, because what does this do? It helps empower us. It helps us become that captain of the ship and not just some passenger that's floating around like, where's this grief going to take me? All right, it allows us to have a little of that composure. It is a it empowers us um, to just sometimes make it through the next day. Okay. And yes, I'm speaking from experience, and that's all that has to be said. Do you understand? Okay. So, with this, now, in order to also help clear our energy or our aura, like say for instance, this isn't going to work for you. Like you can't stay focused long enough to do that, which I was at that point, believe it or not. Okay, here are a couple of mechanisms that can help swimming. Now, not everybody, if you're living in the desert, you may not have, the ocean there. Maybe you do. Um, but swimming in a natural body of water, as long as there's no nasty ass snakes in there, okay, go for it. All right. Um, a lake, a pond. If you cannot do that, perhaps a swimming pool, whether it be your backyard or down at the YMCA, for instance, or school. But swimming, because it's being immersed in that in the actual water. The water is healing and cleansing, and it can help cleanse our aura. And again, if you put intent behind it, then you're even further ahead. Um, Now, if you can't do that and you can't go swimming, perhaps you have some physical limitations. For instance, um, baths. Baths are phenomenal. Okay, so they're the next one. So you can bath include Epsom salt, half a cup of baking soda, and maybe 2 or 3 drops of lavender oil if you have it. But what this does is it helps release the toxins that pile up in our body from the mechanism, the emotional components of grief. Remember when we started this, we talked about the serotonin, the endorphins, and so on and so forth. That those are feel good ones, but there's also the other ones, or the lack of it. And when we get emotionally upset, or just that plain shock of what maybe this is very very brand new to you, someone has just passed, um, we're still in that shock or denial or anger even. um, there's chemical releases in our body, and bathing with these can definitely help release those toxins from the body. Now, there's people that say, I'm not taking a bath. There's no way. I ain't jumping in, or I can't get in. Um, you can also utilize it. It doesn't work as well unless you maybe put your feet in some Epsom salt or something. It might take a little longer. Um, but taking a shower and in visualizing like a beautiful mauve color, um, light energy. The water becomes that color and it's bathing you. You could do blue. Figure out which one. If you're really, really sluggish and depressed, you can take a little bit, like, think of it as cayenne pepper, and you can't stand hot stuff. I mean, very sparingly, a little bit of red, a little speckled around in the water, and allow that to just bathe over you in the shower. Again, it's the intent, because water, um, it's like we're charging that water, right? You can also charge your bath with beautiful, loving, healing energy before you even get into it. And then guess what? You're bathed in this beautiful, so those people who know how to work with energy or do all the way around, again, water is a fantastic component to help clear our energy bodies. Okay, another one to help clear our energy bodies is working perhaps with an energy worker or a healer. And there are many different modalities for that. You can even look at qigong, Reiki, um, Tai Chi, yoga, smudging, meditation. These are components that can help bring forward these tools for your use. And this is for the aura, for the energy body. Now, if you're looking at physical, here's some things you can do to help release those toxins. Again, you can hydration, very important. Stay hydrated. You can look at doing an intestinal clean, for instance, and definitely check with your doctor. And we're going to say this again throughout the thing. Paul and I, we are not doctors in any shape or capacity here, and so this is for your own research. I mean, he said it once, and I'm backing it up again on another side. Okay, you can do a liver cleanse. Check with your doctor, or there's stuff on the internet. Do your own research. Physical activity again, like Paul was saying. Walking, biking, hiking, being in nature. Sometimes we just have to slow down and sit on the beach, right? Walking on the beach, or sitting with your back up against a tree, or putting your feet in the sand. Any part of nature that you can step into. All right. So those are some of the mechanisms, or things that we can do. If this is not something that you can work with, you can always take a bath. Do you know that since my daughter has passed well over 5 years ago, I don't shower. I think maybe twice. I think I've showered twice in 5 years. Doesn't mean I haven't bathed. Come on, people. But I bathe. And when I bathe, I am definitely doing work, energy work. And yeah, something to hose off or whatever. So if it's not something like bathing that you can actually do, then try it and then jump into the shower afterwards. And remember what helps stimulate that serotonin and everything else. You just use all the hot water up for that bath. Step into that shower, the cold shower. It's going to stimulate. So now you're getting a double whammy of let's get on with this. Let's start our life. And, how do we live our lives without someone, right? Maybe you're in that stage. You can start this at any stage. It doesn't matter if it happened 40 years ago or 2 days ago. These are mechanisms that can help you, but you have to be open to try it. And again, it's just gaining a hold of our own emotions and our own emotional body and our own mental. Um, so again, I'm sorry, but I refuse, and I've made this like part of my own mantra. I will not allow anyone to steal my joy, and that includes me. So when my daughter passed, mm, I'm sorry. I miss her and I love her very much, and for a very short while, she took that joy from me, and I allowed it. So I recognized. I said, "Nope, I'm here for a reason, and no, I'm here. I have breath, and I have some work to do. I have a message to share. So I'm not going to allow anybody to steal my joy, even me." And thus, part of this mechanism for um, clearing up those shattered um, mirror images, and that's where this came from. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Um, Paul, I know we're coming up on an hour here, and I would like to include, this is another part. This is for me. I mean, this is something you guys can quote me on if you like. You can utilize it, send it out, whatever. Um, but this is part of when we are looking at stepping in, or assisting our loved ones, or we're unsure, or we damn well know exactly where they are, but it doesn't always mean that, right? It's wishful thinking sometimes. Um, but I would like to give you three effective components for a prayer. You can have the prayer any way you like. This is, prayer is something that's very personal, but if we can recognize in the prayer, uh, it's a release, or it's permission. Like, we're giving these people permission to go. It's like, I kind of describe it like you know, like Paul's wife or my daughter, they just jumped on a plane. They're going on a journey. They're going to spirit you, right? And so Paul and I are hanging back, and we're literally running down the tarmac going, no, and we're starting to pull their luggage off the plane, and no, you can't go. It's like they're on a journey. Doesn't mean they're not going to come back, right? So we have to give our loved ones that permission to leave. It's okay. We're going to be okay. Whether we're not, we're still going to be okay, right? So it's the release. So in the prayer, include that release or that permission. For my daughter, honey, go for it, man. I will see you at another time, very, very soon, and it could be tomorrow. It could be right here and right now, because she can be standing with me. But until she goes to spirit you, and again, whether you guys believe it or not, whatever, the point being, in a prayer or in kind thoughts or wishes, it is the release and permission for that person to go ahead of us. They can prepare a table for us, okay? The second part of a prayer can be that of forgiveness, both asking and receiving. This is very important for us to really learn how to do this. So, asking and giving, asking and receiving, okay? Another component, this is a third, and this is what's really kind of cool. You just ask them to extend their hand, ask ask for assistance, because nothing can be granted, nothing can be given unless somebody asks. And what do we do when we raise our hand? Hey, over here, pay attention. I'd like to say something, right? Got my hand up. That's all it is. Just ask a loved one, because they're gonna, for the most part, they're gonna trust you. They're gonna understand. Say, honey, you know, uh, just raise your hand. No matter where you are, raise your hand, because your angels, your guides, whatever you believe, however you believe it, a different realm, a different energy. It's the moment that you request assistance is given. Um, so again, my daughter OD'd. It was accidental, and so therefore, was it suicide? What is it? What are we looking at? So again, these are mechanisms we don't know. We don't have that information. Creator does. However, we can always encourage them to do that, and there are those on the other side that can help. I'll leave it at that. But those three parts to a prayer truly does stand within law. Okay, they're very effective. When praying for a loved one who has passed, including these components, can help both you and your loved ones. And it is very effective by being in alignment with the energy of laws. It doesn't matter the time frame that someone has transitioned, 2 days or 20 years. The greatest blessing we can give is to encourage them to extend that hand. Um, and again, within those prayers, the prayer is not only for the person who has transitioned, but it's also includes the prayer for ourselves. Um, yeah. So there you go. So I thought I'd just put that out there. Take of it what you will. Again, I know we're looking at different kind of belief systems, so on and so forth, and I'm not getting into all of that. Um, but when we're looking at energy, and that's what my primary focus in is, stepping into the flow of energy, harmony and balance, including those three components into good thoughts for a loved one. Those really are some of the higher frequencies that we can offer, and we're offering it to them, and we're also offering it to ourselves. So there you go, guys.
Exactly. Exactly. And just to add on to what Shadow Fox was saying, again, none of us are doctors. Neither one of us are doctors. Okay.
Or counselors. I know, no.
Do your research. Both of us have experienced loss. We deal with it in different ways. Um, as those that know me, I'm an atheist. I'm a spiritual atheist, but I'm an atheist. I don't believe in a creator of all things, but I do recognize that there is energy out there. There is flow. Okay, and we have to understand those things, and we have to, you know, we have to do what's right for us, and we have to feel the way that we feel, and we have to do the
Got to
things that make
honor
it
that.
better for us. Okay,
Yeah.
and I myself, I write, I exercise, I walk, and I look at things in a positive light. And if you go back to those endorphins, you go back to the serotonin, you go back to all those different chemicals that release in your mind,
Yep.
you have to do things that are going to help you. Massage therapy works
Yep.
wonders.
Yes.
Acupuncture
Absolutely.
works
Yeah. Please
wonders.
touch. Yep.
Okay. So find
Yep.
what works for you.
Yes.
Okay.
We've
Where,
given money. We've
whereas
given.
Diane had mentioned, the song Smile Through Your Heart is Aching makes me think of using action to manifest spirit energy in the body.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, music, music,
Laughter. Laughter
poetry,
is, put
laughter.
on a comedy.
Yep.
Laughter, music can soothe the
Uh,
savage soul. So,
Arcade Scorch, good evening from the Netherlands. Thank you for joining us from the Netherlands. We appreciate that.
yeah, are there any somebody? I can't. My thing isn't working here, so sorry, guys.
We've had like Diana. She said bless y'all for this subject matter.
Uh,
The one last thing that I want to put out there and all that is grief usually involves one thing, no matter who you are. It involves tears.
mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is going out especially to the men because the men think
Oh
that crying is weak.
no.
Okay, they see crying as a weakness. Let me tell you something. I cry almost every day. And after I cry, I feel pretty damn good because it releases a lot of that bad stuff.
Yep.
And when my wife first passed away, I cried a lot. Now, not so much. I still cry almost
Yep.
every day, but I'm not crying for hours on hours on end. Crying is okay. It's healthy. It's good for you. So get over that macho, machismo, male, testosterone, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to cry. Well, you probably should because it'll do you some good. I have no
You-
problems crying,
and
and
you know,
I don't look at another man as weak for crying. I look at another man as being as manly
courage.
as he can be
Yeah,
for crying.
strong. Hmm.
Very
And you
strong.
know what? My father has always said, do you know what happened? When we do cry, it's nature's way of clearing our eyes so we can see more clearly.
Bingo.
And listen, seriously, guys, if you're on listening right now, I think Paul, you have it. I think live feed on Twitter. Tweet out the room. Tweet it. Tweet it. Follow us. If this is something, and again, we offer all kinds of different stuff. We have topics of every single kind of thing. And again, Paul and I had discussed about bringing this topic up, and we decided to wait until like kind of after the holidays, simply
Yes.
because when many people are in throes of stuff, grief can be triggered through the holidays. Uh, we just thought it best to wait kind of until afterwards. And again, this this is a part of healing or self healing. We can definitely, um, you know, manage take this part. We can definitely be accountable, right, to ourselves. Is it a part of self love? Absolutely, positively. Every time I get into a bit, hey, have a glass of wine or don't, if you have a challenge with it. But I mean, come on, light some candles. Let's make this a good thing. Um, it's sometimes just taking those moments and recognizing, hey, I do. There are times that I have a couple of bad days or a bad hour. Um, the idea is not that you're in the grief, but how long of a process is this a good thing, or it's individualized. There is no real. component or mechanism when we're dealing with grief on how somebody else does it. This is just me from my heart, you know. Um, Everybody's going to experience it in their own way. Um, but I know that when I stopped banging my head against the wall and said, okay, enough is enough, I had to take action and start making changes um, in how I was feeling, and it wasn't easy. It had to be. I had to have focus, and sometimes people, I think I don't know about what where everybody's focus is, but these are mechanisms that can help. That's
Yeah.
all. So
And
we've given many, but honor it. Don't ever not honor that feeling. If you have to take a moment and cry, then do so. If you get to sit in the bathtub or the shower and cry, or go outside in nature when it's raining and cry so that nobody can see that you're crying, go for it.
exactly. And then just the last piece of advice and all that, if you are struggling with grief, depression, you're having dark thoughts, anything like that, do seek medical
Yes,
professionals.
yes,
Whether it's a hotline or a therapist or a
yes,
psychiatrist or a psychologist or a medical doctor, do seek help. You know, sometimes things go beyond what we can control.
yeah.
So
And this show could trigger,
yes,
again, and this is why we are, Paul and I are very in tune with making sure, hey, we're not doctors, we're not counselors, we're just offering information, tools, and techniques for us to grab a hold of the components within our lives. You
yep.
know,
All right. Great show. Remember on Friday we have the Vellum with T Paul, TPA Wolfric. And
um,
on Saturday we have Comedy and Controversy. Join Sergeant Nobody, Jeremy Baker on Saturday. It'll be a really, really good show. We're still waiting on a potential possibility of having a guest on Saturday. So we'll
yeah,
see how that turns out. Anyways, remember everybody, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.
take what you can and forget the rest. Honor it. Love you guys. Thanks.